Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'm your host, Erin Bradley. And if you're new here to the show, welcome aboard. And if you've been around the block for a while, thanks for your support and continue to show up here. I've got a great interview for you today with my buddy, Matt King. And Matt and I met way back in 2020. We're recording this now in 2024. It was like in the throes of the pandemic and we crossed paths. And he's actually the reason I found myself into this international women's organization called GoBundance for Women. And Matt actually serves as the CEO of GoBundance, which is this high-level entrepreneurial group of entrepreneurs, investors, wealth builders, all kinds of amazing humans that are seeking abundance in every area of their life and business. And he's also an entrepreneur of his own. He's a real estate investor. He's a husband, a dad. He's now a farmer. He just bought a ranch. And so he's got a wealth of knowledge and experience in everything from building companies, building culture, leadership, speaking, coaching, connecting, and everything in between. So I'm thrilled that Matt took the time today to be with us. And so with no further ado, thank you, Matt, for taking the time to join us here on the Pursuing Freedom podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Erin. It's an honor, and I'm excited to be talking with you today and anybody listening. Hopefully they find some value, apply one or two little nuggets to their life and see some transformation. And, my only goal is to be here to serve. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're with us, and give us a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are now in the real estate space and GoBundance and everything else.
Yeah, look, I tell people all the time I got to where I am by being lucky. And I say that sort of like jokingly because A, it's a much shorter conversation, but B, like luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so I've had to put myself in the right position many times and continue to have to do that in order to get what most people see as luck, right? I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, two incredible parents. They actually just moved down here, retired down to Austin, Texas to be by the grandkids. And just was like middle class, great, great family, great community, learning what it was like to just be a positive contributor to the community. Very competitive athlete growing up and always felt like a little different, a little off, right? Like I always just had this like itch, this bug to see what else was possible. But candidly, I didn't have the courage to go out and pursue that until I started dating this girl who's now my wife, who was a little bit more fearless than me and was like going to school at the University of Minnesota and then was going to go teach in the inner city schools of DC. And when she decided to go teach in the inner city schools of DC, I said, well, great, I'm going to come with you. And her initial response, Erin, was like, I didn't invite you. But of course, as an entrepreneur, I didn't take no for an answer. So I went with her and I put myself in a position to get lucky. I volunteered at a camp for children with incarcerated parents, met a guy named Pat Hyben, who if anybody's in real estate knows his book, 6 Steps to 7 Figures, or his podcast he founded originally, which is Real Estate Rockstars, and met this guy volunteering at a camp and fascinated by him. And again, just a student of life, I always remained curious. And so I asked like a million questions. And he said he was a New York Times bestselling author. He was a real estate investor, like all these things that Erin, I knew existed, but didn't really know people that did them because I was in this smaller-ish town. And so I went home, I read his book in a day and I reached out to him and said, what would it take to earn coffee with you? Started working for Pat. And then that led to me going to volunteer at one of the first ever GoBundance events. At the time, I didn't even know what a mastermind was. He's like, you're going to go to my Orlando. You're going to volunteer at this event. There's 20 or 30 guys staying in a house. You'll sleep on an air mattress and you'll work 18-hour days, but you'll learn a lot. What he failed to tell me was the air mattress would lose air, but that's okay. I'll forgive him for that. And so I went and volunteered at this event, volunteered at another event, learned about having a vision for my life, setting goals, and then my path crossed with this guy named David Osborne. Got on an airplane, rewrote my 5-year vision, said I live in Austin, Texas, work for David Osborne, and literally 2 weeks later, he called and said, what would it take to get you to Austin? Now, the interesting part about that is A, I didn't share my 5-year vision with him, and B, I'd never even been to Texas. So here I am, 23 years old, getting a call from somebody I look up to, idolize, like a mentor, somebody that I was like really like sort of starstruck from. And he's asking me what it would take me to get to Austin. And, it was an easy answer. It was like, this is a part of my vision. This is a part of our plan. Let us just check it out. And then we're a yes. And we made the leap. He said to me, basically, I think you're talented. If I'm right, you'll figure it out. And if I'm wrong, move back to wherever the hell you came from. And so 10 years later, I'm still with him. I have the privilege and opportunity to run and oversee his family office. And then in addition to that, I have the opportunity and privilege to run GoBundance, which is, like you mentioned earlier, the entrepreneurial mastermind community with approximately 915 members today.
Awesome. So you are a fast talker, which I appreciate because I'm from the
Sorry.
Coast. No, I'm from Philly, so I can keep up here. But
okay, good.
You covered a lot of gold, and I'm taking voracious notes here. So talk to me a little bit about when you talk about when preparation meets opportunity, and
Yeah.
when you first met Pat Hyban and you were looking up to him, and you said that you're curious, so you were asking a million questions. And one of the things we talk about a lot here on the show and in my coaching programs is how curiosity squashes insecurity all day long. How did you come to this? You're young, you're 22, 23 years old. You meet this guy who's inspiring you. And where did that innate curiosity or confidence come from? I know you mentioned you had great parents, but like
Yeah.
this luck meets preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, look, I mean, growing up, I was raised by, like you said, amazing people. But when I wanted to order a pizza, my mom would throw the phone book on the table and say, "Figure it out." And so like I was sort of raised and believe in that I will have either find the way or make the way to achieve whatever I want. I remember when I was 18 years old, I wanted a crotch rocket, like those motorcycles, the fast ones, you know. And my parents were like, "Absolutely not, not under our house." And I was like, "Okay, that's a cute response. Let me see what I can do." So Kohl's will give anybody a credit card for $300. So I went to Kohl's because that was the only place I could qualify. I got a credit card, bought a bunch of stupid shirts and shit that I didn't even need, paid off the credit card, did it again, paid off the credit card to establish credit so I could go to the credit union locally and now have credit to go get a loan to get a $6,000 motorcycle. And the one I found was on eBay. And so I wanted to buy a crotch rocket off of eBay. So I back in the day, I did Skype. Remember Skype? I Skyped the owner and trusted that he was showing me this motorcycle and going to be honest and trustworthy. He starts the motorcycle. I'm like, great, I'll take it. I coordinated a transportation company to pick it up from Seattle and transport it all the way to Wisconsin. And without telling my parents any of this, by the way. And so I was standing outside one day. My dad was cutting the grass. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm waiting for my motorcycle." He's like, "Ha!" Starts the lawnmower back up, keeps going. And next thing you know, there's this giant semi in front of our house, lowering this lime green crotch rocket off the back of the truck. My dad goes, "You're crazy." And so like I just always have had this sort of desire to figure out how to do what I want to do. And I've learned, and to your point so brilliantly, I've learned that curiosity drives everything. I believe that too many people are chasing answers, not awareness. And I've always just decided to chase awareness because with awareness comes the ability to make more or different or the same choices. And life is all just a game of choice. And so the more questions I ask, the more awareness I have, the more informed a choice I can make, and thus hopefully getting me closer to the dreams and goals I have for my life.
I like how you bring up this awareness piece. And this is something that I've been exploring, and something I'm curious about for you is you talk about how you got connected to David Osborne, and then you had this 5-year vision that you're going to end up in Texas, you're going to be working for him, and 2 weeks later you get this call. Well, recently, a couple years ago, something similar happened where I'm on a plane to actually a GoBundance event in Mexico, and I write in my journal, I have this process I do where I say, it was October 21st, 2021. And I wrote, it's October 21st, 2022. And I'm celebrating ... Or else you could say 2026, like 5-year vision. And I'm celebrating. And then I just ramble, whatever comes out of my heart. Like it's like a brain dump or a brainstorm or a daydream.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I wrote beach house, question mark, blah, blah, blah. No idea how, right? And 3 days later, a buddy of mine called with an off-market deal across the street from him on South Padre Island, Texas. And within, 3 months, we were going to a property we owned in
Yeah.
a place we had never been. So things happen really fast when you give yourself permission to vision. Can you tell us about your process of coming to your 5-year vision? Like, is there
Yeah.
a deep dive of reflecting, or is there just like drop a bomb and see what happens? Is it random, or is it sort of premeditated?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all of it, candidly, and that's a beautiful story you shared about the power of the reticular activating system in the subconscious, like bringing things into our lives, right? And what I would say is my 5-year vision process follows and mirrors one that David does very similarly. So I go to a place where I feel inspired, and I start off with like a word map, right? If I dropped out of college, but for those of us that finished high school, we know what we were taught to write a 5-paragraph essay with the theme or the idea in the middle, and then the 5 paragraphs are bubbles off to the side, and then the key points we want to make under each of them. I do that for my life. So I write the year in the middle, and then my health, and then what my health looks like, my family, what my family looks like. And then I take all of that and I put it into a narrative that I'm excited to read. I read it as if I'm like in a Disney movie, right? Like the year is 2028. My life is beautiful. Like I'm looking out the window as Melissa drives off in the white car to take the family, like all these things, right? And I get very clear. I get very, very granular on it, like how much my income is, what my body fat is, how many times I'm golfing, what are the kids doing? Do they like to bake with Melissa? Do they like to sew with Melissa? Do they drive dirt bikes? Like, what does their life look like, right? And then I do the same on my income and everything and in my relationships. And then what I have done is I then take that and I make it into essentially a Disney map for my life. So if you ever go to Disney, you open up the big pamphlet and everything looks like it's popping out of the screen or popping out of the pamphlet. Like, oh, go to this attraction or that attraction, right? So I went on to Upwork. I hired a guy for $300 to make me a Disney map of what my life looks like in 5 years. Groupon, because again, I'm always looking for a deal, and found one of those like $11.99 metal prints, 11 by 17, right? Print anything on metal. And I had my 5-year vision map printed on metal, and I hang it right above my dresser. And so every day when I put on my socks, I look at my 5-year vision. And the crazy thing is, and this just goes to the power of the subconscious mind that I didn't even recognize until you just asked this, is on my 5-year vision, I had this concept of how to compete with Buc-ee's, this giant gas station here in Texas. And the logo of the competitor was a Longhorn. Now, fast forward a couple of years, here I am today sitting on our ranch where we have 15 Longhorns out back. And it's kind of like all of this stuff is coming to fruition. Now, the thing is it never comes exactly as you dreamed. But if you're willing to just accept what shows up and let things flow through you, more will continue to flow to you. And so more can continue to show up. And my favorite thing to say is what else is possible or what else could be true, right? Like, I never want to reside in judgment and stop there. So with my vision, even at the end of my goals, this or something better, right? Like creating possibility for other things to show up that I wasn't even dreaming of yet.
I love that. I literally wrote this morning in my journal, I wonder how good things will get for me. I wonder how much good is lined up. I wonder how great things can get in the future. And it's like, it's the opposite of what most people ask themselves.
Yeah.
Most people sit and ask themselves, I wonder what could go wrong. Right.
Yeah.
But this is so cool that you put it onto a metal Disney map. Is that kills me. This is the first I've ever heard of this, that your 5-year vision looks like a map printed on metal. And how beautiful what you said, that it doesn't always look exactly what you drop. It's like, I always tell people, drop the pin in the GPS before you know how, and the path will inevitably unfold, but it's never a straight line. It's a winding road. And so to accept what shows up, let it flow through you, and more will flow to you, is just a really beautiful way to articulate that. So how has this evolved into, okay, one of my questions is in regards to, have you read Benjamin Hardy's The Gap and the Gain?
Yeah. Yeah. I know
Okay.
Ben pretty well. Yeah.
Okay, so I've been so interested in this concept, and I heard it also alluded to as the dance between ambition and contentment. Like if you go too far into the state of I'm satisfied with everything in my life and I'm purely content, it can potentially lead to laziness and complacency. But if the drive and the ambition is so big that it takes us away from experiencing and being content with the present, then we can miss the now, right? So
Yeah.
how do you navigate as a driver, an entrepreneur, a visionary? How do you navigate excited about the future and loving every minute of the now?
Gratitude. I avoid the concept of content. I'm never content with anything, but I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for all the failures, all the successes, all the trials, all the tribulations. Every single thing that shows up to me is happening for me, not to me. And so from my perspective, the way that I avoid complacency or contentness, if you will, is I just stay in gratitude. Like, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, I'm grateful for where we're going, I'm grateful for the help. Like, and even like we ask our children, what are you grateful for? Like the other night, we asked our daughter, what 5 things are you grateful for, right? And just trying to stay grounded in gratitude, I think keeps me rooted in the present, if you will, while still being able to pursue what else is possible.
Okay, all of this is amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit tactically, because I know that you help, or you run David
Yeah.
Osborne's expansion team with Keller Williams. You're very intimately involved with the current real estate market now in 2024. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I had somebody, an owner of a company, say to me earlier this year that people don't need all this mindset stuff. They just need to be told what to do and then make them feel like shit if they don't do it. And clearly the mindset stuff is powerful because we just spent 15, 20 minutes on it. But what are you seeing? How are you seeing agents either thrive or struggle as it relates to translating the mindset into the action and getting results in spite of external circumstances that we can't control?
Yeah, look, I think a dangerous game to play is assuming that the future will be like the past has been. And so if you think the real estate market is going to be like it was in 2021 and the activities you did in 21 to generate business are going to work in 2024, I'm not going to say you're wrong because it might be possible, but I would say it's pretty close to delusional. And so what I'm seeing is you have to work twice as hard for half of the business or four times as hard for the same amount of business. And I think this is like such a gift and such a blessing to this industry because everybody and their cousin was a real estate agent in 2021. Everybody knew how to sell real estate. Everybody was transacting. In these tough times, that's where all of the people get weeded out that aren't really real estate professionals, that don't really care about taking pride and ownership of helping people buy and sell real estate. And so while it's hard and while you feel like you're getting kicked in the teeth, I think it's an opportunity to remind yourself like this is what separates good from great. And this is an opportunity for me to have unfair territory if I'm willing to put in the work and effort to go out and get it. Because nobody's just going to hand it to you. At least in my experience, they won't. And so, yeah, like, look, you can eliminate the mindset stuff and just tell people what to do. Sure, like, absolutely. But there's this saying in Texas that David always references that says that dog won't hunt. And the same is true of telling people what to do. At some point, you take a hunting dog and you go hunt every single day. They get old and they don't want to get off the floor and they don't hunt anymore, right? Our spirit, our soul, eventually over time gets crushed. And so if you think that you can just be told what to do and go generate results, like you can for a certain amount of time. I don't know how far that time is for each and every one of you, but you can do it for a short amount of time. If you want to go further, you have to change your mind. You have to be willing to do some personal development work, and you have to have a different perspective or a lens by which you look to continue to fuel your soul while chasing whatever you're chasing and being grounded in the gratitude of what you have.
And what does it mean for you to fuel your soul when you're balancing so much responsibility with your ranch, with your businesses, your roles, your fatherhood? I mean, being a husband, like, what does it look like for you to fuel your soul and to feed the passion and let the business drive that vision for you?
It's different for me every day. Some days it's laying in bed with my daughter for an extra 15 minutes. Other days it's a date night with my wife. Some days like I'm in the middle of a really stacked day to day of calls and I was feeling like just a little like burned out. So I walk into the pasture and there I'm standing with 15 longhorns and just enjoying nature and being present in like just something that I never have felt or imagined before. But for me, it's also all rooted in memories, Aaron. Like I am on this relentless pursuit for making memories. Yes, the money is important. Yes, that's a scoreboard I use. Don't get me wrong. Like I like that, but money is only good for the good money can do. And so for me, money only brings memories. So this ranch is a great example. Like the ranch is just a memory making machine. The first day we owned it, we had longhorns delivered, we had tractor delivered, we had friends out here helping, we had my 88-year-old grandma out here helping, we had four-wheelers delivered. And by the end of the day, my mom and dad are driving around the property on a four-wheeler. My 88-year-old grandma is driving around on the kids' four-wheeler. Our friends are helping load and unload cattle. Like I will never forget that day. And more importantly, my mom will never forget that day because her mom was there too. And her mom was driving the four-wheeler and they laughed and they joked and they had all this fun. Now, last weekend, my kids were out here and we had our first calf at the property. And my kids were able to pet a less than 24-hour-old longhorn and like this little tiny beautiful baby that's going to be this massive creature, right? And there are my kids petting it. And then they went and drove their four-wheelers by themselves. So like for me, it's all about chasing memories, and the way that I make sure that my flame inside, if you will, doesn't burn out is I just kind of am always trying to make memories and create memories.
So I think it's beautiful what you're saying there, because you even alluded to tending to your own energy today when you were recognizing that you're spread thin, you're a little overwhelmed, whatever, and you take that moment and you carve it out. So how has it been for you to evolve to where you are today? Because this industry has the ability to rob us of our attention, our energy, and our mood in some cases. And it becomes almost like a badge of honor to just kind of suck it up and survive the pace. So how did you learn to carve out the pause for yourself?
Yeah, look, and I would say it's not just this industry, right? It's not just real estate. It's social media, it's the election, it's politics, it's the news, it's the Bachelorette or whatever show my wife was watching the other day. Like all of it just wants to suck us in and absorb us, right? And honestly, the way I learned was pain. Like there was days where I was in pain and I was like struggling and I was down and I was frustrated. And then I finally recognized one day flying on an airplane, as the stewardess said, in case of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on before helping someone else. And I was like, holy shit, I haven't put my oxygen mask on. Like, I've got to do me first, right? And so my morning routine with my spouse became non-negotiable. So Melissa has her morning routine, I have mine. I go work out, I do the sauna, I do the cold plunge, and that doesn't get interrupted. And she gets to do her morning routine, which at 36 weeks pregnant looks a little different than it did 7 months ago. But she gets her morning routine, right? And we make sure that both of us are able to put our oxygen masks on first. And it's not always perfect. We have 2 children, a third on the way, a lot of businesses, family, all these things, right? And so there are moments where it's not going the way we necessarily dreamed of or wanted it to, right? But I recognize, Erin, that the only difference between a rut and a grave is how long you choose to stay there. And so when we get in ruts in life, just don't stay there. Recognize it, acknowledge it, appreciate yourself for it, and then move on, one foot in front of the other every single day. And if you're struggling right now, the first thing I would suggest you do is make your bed. Don't hit snooze and make your bed. See how your day goes. Like, if you start your day with a win, it's much easier to continue your day with wins. And winning for me is getting up, hitting my morning routine, and starting the day on the note that I want to start it on.
I love that. And I feel like so many people will find excuses or say that they can't find the time. And I always joke that time is not an Easter egg hunt. And like,
Yeah.
ultimately, it's not the external world's responsibility to grant us the ability to
Yeah.
have that awareness when we are in the rut and to course correct as quickly as we can and to not beat ourselves up for being human also. So
Yeah.
when I just have to ask you, like, how often do you rewrite that 5-year vision? Because when you put it on metal, then it's pretty permanent. So is there like a wall of metal in your bedroom?
Yeah, so the metal is actually really my 25-year vision. And so that's like big enough and grand enough where that doesn't have to change very frequently. And the scary thing is I did it all before I had the house and some other stuff. And as all this stuff showed up in my life, like, it's scary how similar it looks to the 5-year vision, and not even with intentionality or awareness, just subconscious mind going to work. I rewrite my 5-year vision probably every year, but I will read my 5-year vision 25 times a year. And so, my favorite thing to do is write it in pencil. So if something doesn't feel right, I just erase and put something else. Like, I'm not attached to it. And I think what you said is so beautiful with regards to time. Like, I hear that all the time. People say, I don't have time. I don't have time. And my new favorite trick when I'm speaking or talking to rooms is I get that question, like, how there's just not enough time in the day. I'm like, awesome. Like, are you willing to be vulnerable? And of course, everybody's like, oh yeah, I am. Of course. I'm like, okay. Pull up your phone, go to settings. Pretty much everybody has an iPhone. So they go to settings. I'm like, great, show me your screen time. It's like, oh, dude, you spent 3 hours on Facebook, but you don't have time in your day for you. Got it. Understood. Right. And so I think sometimes we have to have that sort of harsh reality splash us in the face with cold water to say, like, dude, your stories are bullshit. Like, excuse my language, but like, this notion of you don't have time is BS. Like, we all have time. It's what do you choose to spend your time doing?
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I want to honor your time here today, and you've already given us so much gold. And I'm sure that the listeners are feeling inspired to evaluate where they are, where they want to go. If folks want to find you, follow you, hire you to speak, anything like that, what are the best ways to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you again for having me. It's been a really fun conversation. My website is themattking.com, just because there's so many damn Matt Kings in the world. I had to pick some word. On social media, it's mattking.atx. We have a newsletter we put out every single week. Follow GoBundance. If you're interested in learning more about that, that's a great place. And thank you. Like, I'm looking to speak on more stages. I'm looking to do more of these types of podcasts. And so I'm happy to have conversations and continue to share the messages that have been given to me and continue to be given to me, and hopefully impact people through that sharing.
I love it. Well, you have so much great wisdom and inspiration to share. So I'm excited to find the stages you're standing on and cheer you on from the back of the room. Thank you so much for your time today, Matt.
Thank you, Erin.
And to all my friends out there, as always, I love you. I appreciate you. If you're enjoying this content, make sure to leave that 5-star review so you can help us continue to attract amazing guests like Matt and help this content get found on your journey to building a life you don't need a vacation from. I'll see you next time.